hours of ITN The News with Richard Swallow.
Good morning, the headlines. The people prepared to say goodbye to their princess. Diana's body taken home to Kensington Palace. The Queen tells nation that she too will cherish her memory. As dawn breaks, a vast crowd is already lining the route that will be taken this morning by Diana's funeral procession. From Kensington Palace to Westminster Abbey, tens of thousands are rising from their camp chairs and sleeping bags. Hundreds of thousands have set off from homes across the nation, so they too can participate in the national mourning. The police force are braced for the biggest influx of people ever seen in the capital. Overnight, Westminster Abbey and St James's Park were lit up by candlelight. Neil Connery reports.
The people came throughout the night, determined to say farewell to their princess. As the nation unites to remember Diana, Princess of Wales, many of the millions expected began arriving. Outside Westminster Abbey and along the route of this morning's procession, they spent a cold night sleeping on pavements. All were united in their grief.
We've only met each other a few hours ago and we've bonded in a way that if we met each other normally across the street we wouldn't have even said hello to each other. It's just like
it's drawing everyone together.
It's drawing everyone together.
We all feel we're sharing something really important and it's been very calm and peaceful.
Special trains arrived in London in the early hours, bringing mourners from across the country.
I think she's going to bring a lot of love together tonight, because everybody on that train was pulling together in friendship and love all around everywhere.
As the body of the princess lay inside Kensington Palace, in the grounds outside, they arrived with flowers and sat in silence. Along the funeral route throughout the night, people have been reflecting on their princess. She said she wanted to be a Queen of Hearts, and today her subjects in Britain and throughout the world will remember her just as that. By 4:30 this morning, Parliament Square and the area around the Abbey were already full. In their thousands, they've waited for many hours this week to sign books of condolences and leave flowers. In their millions, the princess's people now wait to mourn her on her final journey. Neil Connery, ITN, Westminster Abbey.
Hillary Clinton is on her way to represent President Clinton and the United States at the funeral. The US First Lady boarded an Air Force plane in Martha's Vineyard, where the Clintons have been spending a family vacation. After the service at the Abbey, she'll have lunch with the Prime Minister before flying home. Princess Diana's body rested last night at Kensington Palace, her old London home, where she'd spent many happy times with her two sons. The hearse, which escorted it from St James's Palace yesterday evening, was followed by Prince Charles and the young princes. Earlier, the Queen had paid a tribute to the princess. Speaking live on TV and radio, she called her an exceptional and gifted human being. James Mates reports.
The final journey home, not yet the final farewell. The body of a princess so loved by her people leaving the sanctuary of the Chapel Royal in St James's Palace, on its way to rest one last night in Kensington Palace. Behind a coffin shrouded in the royal standard and adorned by a spray of her favourite white lilies, drove her two sons, Princes William and Harry, bringing their mother back home. On either side, just some of the millions who mourn. So many people, so silent, so sad. The night sky was casting its own shroud as the cortege passed in front of Kensington Palace, almost disappearing amidst the tens of thousands. Many will still be here to see her leave for the last time. It was the end of a day in which the Queen had come back to London to lead the nation's thoughts in memory of the Princess, to articulate the grief of her family and of her people.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her two boys. I, for one, believe there are lessons to be drawn from her life and from the extraordinary and moving reaction to her death. I share in your determination to cherish her memory. I hope that tomorrow we can all, wherever we are, join in expressing our grief at Diana's loss and gratitude for her all too short life. It is a chance to show to the whole world the British nation united in grief and respect.
And in that, her words relayed to the crowds outside truly struck a chord.
She sounded very sincere, and she looked as though she was very moved, and I think that will satisfy everyone.
I thought she said everything she should have said. Can't think of anything that she left out at all.
At Kensington Palace, on the uniquely sad day, the people who loved Diana are staging a final vigil.
On their return to London, the royal family immediately began to mix with members of the public, healing the wounds that some said had been caused by their staying in Balmoral. The Queen and Duke of Edinburgh walked among the crowds outside Buckingham Palace, while Prince Charles and the two young princes accepted flowers and exchanged words of sympathy with those standing outside Kensington Palace. Colin Baker reports.
This was the long-awaited coming together of sovereign and nation. Emerging from 6 days of intensely private mourning in Balmoral, the Queen with Prince Philip came home. Their thoughts on this journey will never be known. Surely they will also never be forgotten. For the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh, the first sight of their royal residence was a palace garlanded with 1,000,000 bouquets. And as they arrived, there was some applause, and it spread and it rippled through the thousands now gathered. But their attention was grabbed immediately by the flowers. There was a mountain at their gates. Whatever tears were shed in the crowds, this was a moment of comfort for the people. There was no haste, only time for a shared thought, a word of gratitude, and to take a bunch of flowers and place it gently with the rest. The people warmed to the presence of the Queen and the rest of the royal family back at Buckingham Palace, the focus of their grief. Then it was to St James's Palace, and the royal couple were the day's most unexpected arrivals for the crowds who'd been waiting 12 hours to sign the books of condolence. Waiting all day with a rose for a princess, this man queuing at St James's Palace gave it to the Queen. 3 princes and a mass of flowers, shouting with one voice the message from the nation, "You are not alone." From a place unknown to most, they brought with them to Kensington Palace the steel and the strength many others will require in the coming hours. A father and 2 sons, for a few moments, lost in thought in a sea of compassion. And a moment to reflect on a tribute to a mother.
Charles. Shut up. Charles.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
William. William.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, hold on.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
William, we love you. The thoughtful friend of the nation of
Love you! Oh, God, thanks. God, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Single lilies each, to be laid with the rest. And as they made ready to go into the palace, empty but for memories, the one sure thought that courage, like the people, will not desert them. Colin Baker, ITN.
An estimated 1 million bunches of flowers have been laid by the public at royal palaces in London. Indeed, they've become an abiding image of the week. This report is by Andrew Simmons.
A bright mass of flowers now dwarfing the hundreds of people at the edge of it, built up in 6 overwhelming days. It was here below, behind the gates of Kensington Palace, where Diana, Princess of Wales, used to live. Its approach roads are smothered by bouquets. In contrast to the carefully arranged carpet of flowers laid before Buckingham Palace. So many found it impossible to absorb from pictures and words what has been going on. And that is perhaps why such vast numbers of all ages and backgrounds have come to the royal palaces impulsively to be amongst the sweet scent of these flowers. Every bunch of them distinctive for its own individual message. And amongst the people, it is still hard to take in the enormity of it all. Outside the 3 royal palaces, more than 1 million bouquets have been laid. A Buckingham Palace spokesman says all of the flowers will remain in place over the weekend. After that, it's yet to be decided where they'll be taken to. But every single message will be collected and passed on.
From London, the funeral cortege will make its way up the M1 to Northamptonshire and Diana's final resting place. She was to have been buried in the Spencer family vault in the parish church at Great Brington, but now the princess will be laid to rest on an island in the grounds of her childhood home. Reporting from Althorp, here's Eric McGuinness.
The gates of Althorp, destination of so many mourners, and behind which we now know the princess will finally be laid to rest. It is here on this island, in the centre of the estate's ornamental lake, that Princess Diana's coffin will be brought. It is the family's wish that she be buried here, a place of serene beauty, where her relatives, in particular her 2 young sons, can come in privacy and pay their respects. While 20 generations have been buried in the village church, the decision is a break with Spencer tradition, a unique arrangement for Princess Diana.
I think it's the right decision for privacy for the princess.
I think that it's good. I think that they should be allowed some private time.
Roads are now closed, large crowds are expected. Some are already in place on the route leading up to the gates. And it is here her coffin will slip from public gaze forever. The people are still coming, and it is in anticipation of this public need that the family are considering erecting a memorial outside the gates, allowing people to come whenever they wish to pay their respects.
Among the millions lining her funeral route will be some whose lives have been touched by the princess personally. Caroline Kerr has talked to 3 such people to hear their stories.
Emma May is a 16-year-old who's just started studying for her A-levels. She'll be in the Mall. Chris Moon lost an arm and a leg, but he's training to run in a marathon. He'll be at the service inside the Abbey. Eileen Brennan is a ward sister looking after a little girl who's had a kidney transplant. She'll be part of the funeral procession. Diana touched all their lives. She met Eileen here on the left in February when she visited Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital.
For the children, it was like a magical day. They saw her as a princess and they were just excited about all the sparkle. when we were walking around introducing her to all the children, you sort of forgot that she was royal, and she was just like somebody very nice coming to see the children.
Eileen's used to tragedy, but she's unsure how she'll cope.
We're used to death and dying and coping with situations like this, but I think this will be unique. And having met Diana, I think it might be a little bit harder.
The Princess met Emma May 6 years ago when she was presenting children with an award for bravery. Emma was born with Turner's syndrome, a disease which stunted her growth. Diana told her to keep in touch, and she did. For the next 6 years, they wrote to each other regularly. When Emma needed £40,000 for an operation, Diana made a large personal contribution.
She was a friend in every sense of the word, really. I mean, not only did she send me money to help with my leg operation, but she kept in touch, monitoring my progress and giving me lots of support. I can't have children because of my Turner syndrome, and she said that she knew that that would become very difficult for me as I got older, and that she'd always be there to give me support when the time came. And unfortunately, now I'm not going to be able to do that.
He truly symbolises what selfless bravery is.
Chris Moon was applauded by Diana in March for his work as an anti-landmine campaigner. He lost 2 limbs clearing mines in Mozambique.
It'll be a very tragic day, but I think what's left is the future, and it's right to really make that in every way a fitting memorial, and to continue supporting the causes that she supported and just trying to make things a little better.
Through her life, Diana said she hoped she could make things a little better. Now it falls to those who received her help to continue her work.
Many newspapers have this morning brought out special memorial issues. The Times carries a picture of the princes and a sea of flowers leading a nation's grief. It describes the Queen's tribute to an exceptional and gifted human being. In the Telegraph, let us show the world we are united in grief. The paper reports how Britain and much of the globe will come to a tearful standstill this morning, pictured as the Queen and Prince William. A picture of Diana, Princess of Wales, and Prince Harry surrounded by floral tributes forms the centrepiece of The Guardian's front page. The paper describes how the nation waits for the funeral of the century. In The Independent, here for a Diana for history, and a report that the people are in London to say goodbye to the Princess and to be part of the historic event. In the Mirror, the similarity is striking, and the caption familiar. Prince of Hearts and a picture of Prince William at Kensington Palace, with flowers left for his mother. Finally, the Princess herself is pictured on the front pages of many of the tabloids, in the Mail, in the Sun, the Star, and in the Express. The simple message, we shall never forget you. Now, other news. President Clinton has led tributes from around the world for Mother Teresa, who died yesterday. He said she had faith, hope, and love in abundance. Mother Teresa, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, was seen by millions as a saint who devoted her life to the sick and poor of Calcutta. She was 87. Claire Cross reports.
Mother Teresa's body lying on a bed of ice with hands clasped in the simple habit worn by members of her order. The shock of Mother Teresa's death swept through people leaving Westminster Cathedral after a special service for the Princess of Wales.
She had this tremendous feeling for life, the value of life, and anything which destroyed life, whether it was in war or in abortion, was absolutely abhorrent to her.
President Clinton had this tribute.
With the power of her humble and unconquerable faith, she touched the lives of millions of people in India, here in the United States, and throughout the world. Like everyone who ever met her, I was profoundly moved by her conviction and her courage.
Her care for the poor and sick the world over earned her the love of millions. But it was in India, she said, more than 40 years ago, she heard the divine call. The Pope allowed her to leave her order and start a mission to teach slum children. Later came the Pure Heart Clinic. Mother Teresa and her helpers gathered the dying from the gutters of Calcutta to give them dignity in death. It was this work that in the eyes of the world made her a saint. On a visit to Britain, she was shocked by the number of people sleeping on the streets.
It was so painful to see, and they too are children of God.
But her work goes on. Sister Nirmala elected Mother Teresa's successor. Claire Cross, ITN.
Okay. In the wake of the triple suicide bombing and the death of 12 Marines, Israel's Prime Minister has said he no longer feels bound by peace accords with Palestinians and would not hand over large chunks of the West Bank as he'd pledged. Hugh Pym at ITN reports.
It was Israel's worst military setback in the Lebanon for 12 years, a second devastating blow in as many days after the bombing in Jerusalem. Their president visiting surviving soldiers rescued and taken to hospital in northern Israel.
Obviously, there are two hard hits that are different, completely different to each other. And one thing I said in Hebrew, and I say it in English again, that we have to brace ourselves.
This was where the Lebanese troops and Muslim guerrillas beat back the Israeli attack, the Marine commandos having launched a raid north of the city of Tyre. It was just outside a 9-mile deep security zone established by the Israelis, an area occupied with the aim of protecting northern Israel from guerrilla raids. The clash leaving 11 commandos dead and a 12th missing. The Prime Minister said he would retaliate, Benjamin Netanyahu announcing a freeze on land being handed to the Palestinians. He would not, he said, bow to terrorism.
We are absolutely committed to resist these terrorists, and we believe that with our resolve and our commitment, we will achieve the secure peace that our people deserve.
The peace process in the Middle East has been severely battered, a process which the American Secretary of State will try to salvage with her visit next week.
The wine has been flowing in Greece after Athens was awarded the 2004 Olympic Games. After the relative failure of the World Athletic Championships last month, the Greek capital was something of a surprise choice. Many had expected Rome to win. Our sports reporter Peter Staunton has the story.
The votes of the Olympic delegates had been counted. One of the 5 bidding cities had won the right to stage the biggest event in the sporting calendar.
The city will have the honor and responsibility to organize the Olympic Games of the year 2004 is Athens.
They'd beaten the favourites Rome. Thousands heard the announcement in the streets of the Greek capital. For the organisers, the end of a 4-year battle to win the Games and the start of 7 years' work to get everything ready.
I thank the IOC for the honor they gave us, and now we start working. We have to start working.
And there's much work to be done. Behind the glossy publicity images, Athens is a city with dangerous air pollution in the summer months. During the World Athletics Championships in August this year, a handful of competitors collapsed. There wasn't one world record broken, the 40-degree heat blamed for that. But a clean-up campaign is promised, and after last year's over-commercial Olympics in Atlanta, many are relieved the Games are finally going back to their birthplace.
Britain's Greg Ruzetsky may be forced to drop out of his semi-final in the US Tennis Open today. He's got the flu. He's due to play Jonas Bjorkman from Sweden after beating Krajicek in the quarter-final. He'll decide whether he's fit to play later this morning. You're watching the morning news from ITN on Saturday, the 6th of September. A recap of the main events. As dawn breaks, a vast crowd is already lining the route that'll be taken this morning by Diana's funeral procession. From Kensington Palace to Westminster Abbey, tens of thousands are rising from their camp chairs and sleeping bags. Hundreds of thousands have set off from homes across the nation, so they too can participate in the national mourning. Overnight, Westminster Abbey and St James's Park were lit up by candlelight. The police are braced for the biggest influx of people ever seen in the capital. Princess Diana's body rested last night at Kensington Palace, her old London home where she'd spent many happy times with her 2 sons. The hearse, which escorted it from St James's Palace yesterday evening, was followed by Prince Charles and the young princes. Thousands flocked to catch a glimpse, many throwing flowers, many in tears. Her coffin will leave Kensington Palace at 9:08 this morning. Draped in a royal standard and carried on a gun carriage, it'll take 1 hour and 47 minutes to make the journey to Westminster Abbey for the funeral service. And that's it from the ITN Morning News team. GMTV begins in a moment with reports on the morning's preparations. And here at ITN, we'll have uninterrupted coverage of the procession, the funeral, and Diana's final journey to her family home in Northamptonshire. That's from 8:30 this morning through to 4 o'clock this afternoon. But for now from us, goodbye.